Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the YI 4K Plus action camera. I would like to thank YI for actually sending me these out for review, given the release of the GoPro Hero 6 and obviously the GoPro Hero 5 that's been out for a while. Very much excited to see how this would compare to it. Now, what I got is the YI action camera with the waterproof case kit, and they also sent me the gimbal as well to test out sort of image stabilization and how it would compare to EIS, which is on this camera. Now, in terms of pricing, it can be found within the UK for £340 with a waterproof case, and the gimbal sold separately for £170. Links will be down in the description below in case you're interested. Now, within the box, you will find the camera itself with a battery, which is over here. And then you've got the waterproof case, which is found here, which has a small little mount, which I've actually removed because I'd used it in another scenario. Now, the gimbal itself has included batteries, which will need to be charged, and it comes with a micro USB connection and also a little battery compartment in order to charge the batteries found within it. Pretty simple stuff, not over the top. What I found, which is slightly a shame over here, is that there was no extra accessories included with the YI 4K Plus. Given the price of around £340, I would have liked to see some extra accessories included. Now, the camera itself is a little bit picky. Now, the reason I want to mention this first is because it's very important to make sure that you've got the right micro SD card. I actually had to go ahead and purchase a micro SD card for the review, and the one I've got is the one that's recommended on the YI Technology site. It's the SanDisk Extreme Plus 64GB U3. Now, the reason you need this is because of the data transfer. The amount of data that's going between the camera and the micro SD card is huge, and therefore you're going to need a micro SD card that can be capable of read and writing at a very high rate. Now, you might think, oh yeah, well, my Class 10 card would work. Well, no. I had a SanDisk Class 10 card, U1, and that came up with card errors. So it's a little bit picky with which micro SD card it's going to need. You can see a list of compatibility through YI Technology's website. I'll link that down in the description below. In terms of the build quality, it's very nice. It measures 65mm by 30mm, and that's including the lens, and 42mm on top. So you can see very small and very compact and easy to take around with you. In terms of microphones, it's got one microphone at the top, one microphone at the side, which picks up a stereo sound. I'll get into that in the performance section. On the left hand side, it's a USB-C connector over here, and underneath you've got the thread for a regular thread for your camera, which can be mounted on a tripod or whatnot. And as I said, underneath over here, you've got a removable battery and you've got the micro SD card compartment. At the top, you've got the on and off switch, which is very easy to use. Just turn it on and it switches on very quickly. And you'll be able to see here is the interface. Now, the interface is very straightforward, and I really like what they've done. Better still, it is a touchscreen interface, so you can go into the settings and what have you via the touchscreen. Now, I should mention, in terms of the build quality, this is not waterproof like the GoPro Hero 5 is. So the GoPro Hero 5 is can be submerged up to 10 meters without a need of a waterproof case. This, however, is not waterproof. You will need this, so do bear that in mind. Now, this camera is extremely capable. It is capable of 4K 60 FPS, and that is something that really differentiates it between this and the GoPro Hero 5. Now, the Hero 6, which I haven't tested yet and haven't compared it to, has also 60 FPS recordings, and it is very impressive to see a camera that's about £100 odd cheaper than the GoPro Hero 5 and yet has 4K 60 FPS recordings. I'll go into the tests in just a while, but first of all, let's go through the options. So in terms of resolutions, you've got a variety of different options, including Ultra Mode. And Ultra Mode, by the way, is another way of having a larger aspect ratio, kind of like the super view option found in the GoPro camera. In terms of field of view, this can be customized depending on the option. So for example, if I were to go to 1080p and go on 1080p normal and then put it on 60 FPS, you'll change the field of view between wide, medium and narrow. Now other options, you've got metering mode, you've got auto low light mode, video quality, white balance, color, which you can also have on flat, which is great for video editors out there, shutter speed, ISO levels, sharpness, EV, electronics image stabilization. Now this is activated at certain resolutions. Again, I urge you to check out these specs in the description below of the modes that it's capable of. So certain modes won't have it, so 4K 60 FPS won't have EIS, and I'll get into that in just a bit. Timestamps and file size, which you can limit to 4 GB per section, or have it in max, so that you can have massive video sizes. In the cog section, you've got Wi-Fi. Now the Wi-Fi section is fantastic because you've got 2.4 and I think 5 gigahertz frequency to connect up to your telephone. And once you connect it up to your telephone, you can use the app to see a live view of your camera. It's great if you want to place your camera somewhere and kind of use like a remote control on your phone. It works flawlessly and the connection is great. I'll show you that, but it would just take too long to go through everything. In terms of SD card, you can optimize it, format it. You can have the default mode, the brightness level, which I've put on low at the moment, beeps, which you can enable or disable, microphone, how much it picks up, sound effects, so stereo or wind mode, LEDs, so that's the ones at the top and the front over here. You can enable them permanently or not. In housing mode, essentially is something that you'd really want to use if you're using this case. External microphone, so it's actually great because you can use the bundled, which I actually forgot to show, bundled USB-C to 3.5mm jack and connect that up to an external microphone and get much better sound quality. I would highly suggest that, and I'll tell you why in just a second. And you've got a remote control, which it has Bluetooth pairing. You can use a Bluetooth device to, again, take a photo on the camera. Voice control, so you can talk to the camera and tell it what to do. So in terms of like an instructions, just to show you over here, you can say YI action, take photo, and it will take a photo immediately, which is really great. The voice controls work well. You just have to speak a little bit clearly, and if it's in its case, you'll have to speak pretty loudly in order to make it understand it. Advanced, you've got such as video rotation, so if I'm doing this, it will rotate automatically or not. And other than that, just your basic options such as setting the time and the battery percentage. So in terms of the overall settings and the usability of it, it's very easy. Now if I were to scroll through, you can see that I can switch between photo mode and video mode very, very easily. And via pressing the play button, I can go back to previous files that I've recorded. And if I press over here, it quickly switches between modes, so I can choose between the different modes such as time-lapse mode or loop mode or even live mode. And live mode's pretty cool because you can Facebook live stream or YouTube live stream by pressing that button. You'll have to set up your account details in order to make that happen. So that is the settings and everything you want to know about it. Now let's talk about its performance. Now first of all, in terms of a touchscreen display, you saw how responsive it is. It's a 2.2-inch touchscreen display, and the reason why it's so responsive is because it has an Ambarella H2 chipset, hopefully I said that right, with a quad-core Cortex A53 64-bit CPU. Quite a mouthful to say, but what that means is that this is really responsive. In comparison to GoPro Hero5, I found it a lot more responsive and a lot faster to operate. In terms of its image sensor, it uses the Sony IMX377, and that is also a 12 megapixel CMOS image sensor with Eximo R. Now, what that results in, and you'll be able to see right now, is that the image quality is absolutely stunning. Now, in comparison to the GoPro Hero 5, I found its image quality to be actually a lot better. Image were just a little bit more saturated, saturated in a good way. They weren't washed out, and also they didn't have like a yellowish tinge to them. They were very much accurate, and in all honesty, looking at the field of view that you got from the images, I found it extremely impressive for a small little camera of its size. It might not compare to your flagship smartphone nowadays, but nevertheless, if you're looking for an action camera with a good camera sensor on it to take still photography, then I can say it's fantastic. Now, the most important part, what about its video quality? Now, before talking about its video quality, I want to talk about bitrate. Now, you'll be able to see over here a comparison of the bit rates. Now, on the top left-hand side, you've got the GoPro Hero5 4K at 30 FPS. Top right is the YI action camera recording at 4K 60 FPS. Bottom right, 1080p 120 FPS. And then bottom left, GoPro Hero5 at 1080p 120 FPS. Here you'll be able to see the difference between the bit rates. Now, no matter the settings for the GoPro Hero 5, you were hitting about 60 mbits per second, and now that is not bad on if you take it as a face value. But then when you compare it to the YI 4K plus action camera, you can look at the 136 megabit per second and the 75 that it has over there. Now, what does that mean in real terms? Now, what that means is that you get a lot better detail. Now, comparing the images between the two of them, you'll be able to see over here a building shot. Now, the building shot, you can see a lot of detail happening around the actual lines of the building. And then if I compare it to the Hero 5's one, you can see that the image is a little bit lost. It is still very good, but you can see the lines aren't as accurate, the colors aren't as well, are not as accurate, and the contrast ratio isn't as deep as you would expect it to be, which is slightly surprising given the Hero 5 is used in multiple different applications. In this image over here, you can see a road shot, pretty much similar sort of results. The blue sky is a lot bluer, you can see more of the sky itself. The building on the left hand side with the glasses, you can just see the detail a lot better there, and just generally speaking throughout the image over here, the accurate colors and the amount of detail that's being seen on the YI action camera is a lot better. Then moving on from that image to sort of like a real life image, so for example looking at my hand, again here the difference isn't as big, it's actually relatively small, but again the image on the YI action camera is just that little bit more accurate and a little bit more defined, even though I had a little bit of movement in the still image shot. I just have to say this is a freeze frame of a video, so it's not ideal in order for comparison, but nevertheless it will give you an idea. Finally, in this image, looking at the road, you would think, oh, there's very little difference between the two, but until you just look a little bit more on the left hand side at that box, you can see the detail on that little box. The little details there are seen, whereas on the GoPro Hero 5 you cannot see them as much. So in terms of the amount of detail this YI action camera can actually draw in, it's fantastic. In terms of the overall image quality and in terms of the color accuracy and even the contrast ratio, if I had to choose between the two, it's not even a have to choose. It's hands down winner to the YI 4K action camera. So now you'll be thinking, okay, that's how the video quality is. What about EIS and what about how well it does? Now what I've done for you guys is I've uploaded a 4K 30 FPS comparison, and I've also used the Gimbal in order to give you an idea. Now this video, which you'll find in the link in the description below, and the reason I've put it separately is because it's a relatively shortish video, but I wanted to upload it in 4K 30 FPS rather than at 1080p 60 FPS, which this video is recording at. But you'd be wondering, okay, what about a 1080p 60 FPS, which is pretty much a standard norm. Now here you'll be able to see a video of me driving on a track day. We're back. So you could see on that track day, just me driving around with the BMW M3 that I have. Fantastic experience, and it was great to actually drive with it. The quality that you saw there was really good, and no, that wasn't using a gimbal. It was just mounted to my windscreen. So relatively good, and that's with EIS off, so do bear that in mind. Now, in terms of how it does with the gimbal, and I tested that as well at 1080p 60 FPS, you'll be able to see now with EIS off 1080p 60 FPS a recording now. So you're able to see over there the image quality was very good. The way it was portraying the detail throughout the scene was very nice, and the overall scene itself was actually very well portrayed. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so it's a lot of positives. What are the negatives of this camera? Well, there's a few things. First of all, it's not waterproof without its case. Its audio quality is pretty terrible. If you look at the 4K camera testing in the link description below, you'll see that when I put the waterproof case on, it really does reduce the audio quality quite substantially. Even without its waterproof case, GoPro Hero 5 without a waterproof case versus this 4K Plus, I found the audio quality to be mediocre at best. If you want better audio quality, which it's not something you should really be looking at when you're looking at an action camera, go for the GoPro Hero 5. And finally, this 4K Plus doesn't have any GPS. Now, the GPS might bother some people. So for example, if you're a driver, something you want to have like a GPS data of where you're driving and even G-force indicator, you're not going to get this with the 4K Plus. You're going to get that with the Hero 5. Which camera would I recommend? Now, given the fact that the Hero 5 costs £380, the Hero 6 costs £500, even the Hero 5 Session costs £240, and that doesn't even include a touchscreen and does 4K 30 FPS, whilst the YI 4K Plus is around £300 to £340. It's a no-brainer. The YI 4K Plus is hands down the best action camera you can find in the market given its price. So that's my recommendation, guys. I'm very sorry for the very long video, but I wanted to cover absolutely everything in this video for you. Right, if you've liked this video, make sure you give it a like, comment in terms of what you think which is the best action camera in the market today. Don't forget to subscribe, favorite and share, as it always helps my channel grow. Take care, guys. Totally dubbed out. Bye-bye.